My name's Claudia Morgan. I work at JFK Middle School. I am a teacher assistant for the special ed self-contained classroom. It's too much pressure on the kids at schools, and there's just so much testing that there's not enough time to do teaching, and there's not enough learning. All I see is students and teachers more worried about how they're going to do on this test, learning the test materials and not learning what they should know as far as what they'll need to know when they do need to get out of school and go into college. And so I really think that a lot of testing is also biased, and I think it's just not something that schools should be worried about. Testing, they should be more worried about teaching and doing what they need to do as far as preparing our children to be productive citizens in the community. I think there's, to a certain extent, there should be testing to make sure that the children are making some sort of progress, and that it benefits the children and parents and the school system as far as seeing the progress that these students make in each age group. That as you get older, when you get into high school, it helps you to see what you need to prepare for when you go into college as well. And also when it comes time to take your ACTs and your SATs and your senior. But anyway, I think that those are beneficial, but I also think that they can hinder a lot of our children as far as learning, because all we're doing is stressing them out as to, you need to take this test, you need to take this test. And so it kind of has its pros and its cons, but I think if it's limited to a certain extent, then it can be very beneficial. In the classroom that I'm in currently, in our life skills classroom, our students don't take testing. They're, I guess, exempt from testing. But when it comes to the general population of the students at the JFK Middle School, it's a whole bunch of them in a library trying to hurry and take this test. And it's like maybe 60 students at a time that are testing, and so it's mass production testing. For a lot of our other special ed students, they're given time to take their testing, and so a lot of the times when we get together and we have to meet and our staff is told, we're getting ready for the NIMS bar, we're getting ready for this, or we're getting ready for this testing, the stress is on the teachers as to, okay, I need to teach this, I need to teach that, and we've got this time limit, we have a certain time frame, and then we've got students who are absent, and then we have to do makeup, and so it's really, really time consuming. And so a lot of times, a lot of the students are in the classrooms learning, they're in the testing areas, and it just becomes this mass production. I think it affects everyone, staff and students in general, because like I said, everybody has their stressors as to getting their testing done. Teachers are worried about whether they've taught the right material for this testing, especially when the teachers are being graded on these tests, and so that puts a big stressor on our teachers. And then we have those students who could care less whether they do well on this test. It's just a test, just get it done and over with. And then you have those that are more really concerned about how well they do on their testing. And we've had students come in and have meltdowns. We've had students who have come in and just couldn't take the fact of having to be tested and not doing so well on these testings, and they would come in maybe the next day drunk, or they'd come in high, or there was just these different things that happen and take place that I've never seen happen in elementaries that happen in mid schools. And we have the teachers having to look for subs for their classrooms to cover, because they got to take children to do makeup testing. And so there's a lot of teaching time that's not being done because of all this standardized testing that takes place in our classes and in our schools. And so I think it affects everybody within the school system, because then we also have the disciplinary people who have to deal with the children who have behaviors, and then we have those that have to take the time out of doing their usual jobs to monitor testing rooms, and so it's just a big hassle. I don't know if there would be anything better than what they're doing now. I mean, I think if they were to test larger schools such as our JFK Middle School, I think it would be more beneficial if they tested in smaller groups and at different intervals of times, instead of all at one time everybody get on the computer and take their testing, and then you have the computers crashing and computers that aren't up to date with what test material they need to take. And so I think if there was a longer period of time of testing, instead of giving, I think they're given a 2-week allotment of testing period, and so maybe if they extended the testing period to be a little bit longer, and then that way we could test our kids in smaller groups, then it won't be so stressful. And make it so that, I think our school systems also need to make it so that it's fun. Yay, we're doing a test, and give little incentives, because it's the children that are going through all of this. It's not the staff that have to sit there and read these stories and do this math and do all of these things that are on these tests. I don't know if there would be any good ideas. If I had any good ideas as to how the testing would be a lot easier for our students, but I think if we slowly try to look at our children and the areas that they come from, what types of homes and environments that they're in, that we could kind of accommodate some of that, and maybe have less students take their testing at a time, instead of having them go in like they're just one big mass production. Let's hurry up and get this over with. And and I think it's just rushed, and so the children feel rushed, and so a lot of times you just see them just clicking and answering it any old way, and I just want to get this over with. And then a lot of the testing is timed, and I don't know, but I don't like to be timed for anything, so I'm sure a lot of the students don't like to be on a time limit, and so it kind of also creates a big nerve. You put them into in a realm where they're a lot more nervous at taking tests, and so maybe if we could just calm it down and tone it down a little bit, that it would be a lot easier. And maybe even oral testing, sometimes oral testing, because there's different ways of learning that students go through. A lot of them are hands-on, some could be oral, some could be taught through manipulatives, and so maybe different types of testings like that would be a lot more beneficial than sitting at a computer and clicking buttons. Yeah, I do. I really do. Gosh, and I hate to go back to say, you know, that I'm this dinosaur, but when we did our testing, it was not, you know, so stressful. You know, the importance of the testing was there, but we didn't have as many, and we didn't have to. All we did was take our classroom test over the material that we were taught, our English, our math, our history, and so on and so forth. Whereas with the new modernized testing, our kids are more worried about, am I going to pass to be a senior? Am I going to be able to walk down the aisle and say, you know, hey, I graduated with my diploma and not a certificate, and I'm going to be able to go to college? And, you know, there's just so much hype about how well you do on these tests, and it's not about how you could how you are as a person, and as how much you've learned in your class from your teachers than from what you have to be tested on through a standardized test. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do fear for the generations, because there's already how many tests you got to take just to pass to be a senior, and so then the future generations probably got to take 10 times more than what the present has already have to take now. So yeah, I do fear for them.
Okay.